Hold on a second. So I need to announce that for you, those of you who are tuning in for YouTube later on, or even for the podcast later, just know that this is an important show with Dr. Neal Barnard. If you have children, or if you know someone who has children, please share this video, because the best way we're going to create a healthy body and a disease-free healthy body is if we start with teaching our children young. So fasten your seatbelts, because we're going to learn and grow together in the classroom. Here we go.
The Lillian McDermott Show.
We love, we fear, bridges we burn, we make mistakes, then we live and learn. When life gets tough, and it seems like your best ain't good enough. If you're in need of hope, you know where I'll be right here, right here. And when you need a friend, you can count on me. I'll be right here, waiting for you.
This is the place you can always turn to when you need a friend. The Lillian McDermott Show. To reach out to Lillian, visit her on the web at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now let's all learn together. Here's Lillian McDermott.
Hello, my listening friend. This is a wonderful day that we can meet each other on the air. And for those of you who have tuned in for the first time on the Lillian McDermott Radio Show /classroom, please know that I've been waiting for you. This is a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. And it is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal. And it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening, as well as my viewing friend, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dreams. Now, here we go. I say that every time. And a part of living the life of your dreams is doing things where I can be a part of that growth and healing my body. So just recently, as you know, this is my first time back on the air, I think, since my water fast began. So Dr. Neal Barnard does not know this yet, but what I've been doing is I'm on my second day of a 5-day water fast with Dr. Michael Clapper. And so although I feel great right now, my brain is like a skip behind. And so if I don't sound coherent, Dr. Barnard, please, just hold me accountable and just try to read between the lines. And I know you love Dr. Clapper.
You bet, exactly.
Yes.
So you're on your second day of a water fast.
Yes, I am.
Wow, that's exciting.
Yes, I am. And it's a 5-day water fast, but I'm making this commitment 1 day at a time.
Great. Well, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. But today we have you to help us. There's so many ideas that we have about nutrition. And if we think that whatever we're eating, a yo-ho, a ding-dong, or whatever, that's healthy for our body and that's what we want to eat, well, you come to the right classroom to learn a new truth. And the goal is for you to realize that it isn't, and to do something different about it, right? But here's the thing. Our children don't know any better. And they completely trust in our guidance to eat. And we're teaching our children how to eat. And we are handing them diseases because mostly the disease comes from generation to generation of family recipes. Not necessarily the genes, because you can turn the disease on or off by the way you eat, drink, and all that. So if we want to eliminate disease and help our children live longer than us, we need to start them young, really young. And so I'm excited today because world-renowned New York Times bestselling author, researcher, activist, author, musician, and great physician is here to teach us how we can take a child from birth and set them up so they don't have to deal with diseases in their lifetime. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am so grateful that Dr. Neal Barnard is here to do just that. Welcome back, Dr. Barnard, to the Lillian McDermott Radio Show / classroom.
Well, thank you, Lillian. It's great to be back with you today.
It's always good. So share a little bit about what fascinated you, for people that are tuning in for the first time, what fascinated you to optimal nutrition, a whole food, plant-based lifestyle?
Well, I have to say, this wasn't the way I started out at all. I grew up in North Dakota, and for me, it was kind of like everybody else. I figured, roast beef, baked potatoes, and corn, and that was kind of all we did. But when I got a little bit older, I started making some changes in my diet. And I have to say the power of food was much greater than I had thought. So many people think, well, I'll switch from beef to chicken and maybe my cholesterol drop a couple of points, but it really doesn't do a whole lot. Well, if you make bigger changes than that, the rewards can be dramatically bigger. And so for me as a physician, I run a primary care clinic here. We use, we'll use also whatever tools we need in medicine, but the most powerful tool is to help patients to rethink their diets. We also do research studies where we bring in people who have diabetes or weight problems or high cholesterol or other things. And we find that when people use the power of foods, it's just absolutely life-changing. And so I'm delighted that you're interested in thinking about kids, because that is where it all starts. And if we can help children to get off on a little bit healthier footing, they're going to do so much better as they go through life.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as, we talk today about, our children, we know that our children are our future. We want to teach them well and let them lead the way, as the song goes. But here's what's happening. We're passing on our diseases, our habits. And let me tell you, with doing this, being on the second day of the fast, I am realizing that I eat when I'm bored. I eat to be social. I eat because I'm always hungry. And after 2 days, I'm not hungry. And so we have this preconception or this preconceived notion that we have to eat, and we have to eat whatever our parents taught us to eat. And so today I'm hoping that whatever you say will encourage a mother, a father of young children, or as me as a grandmother, I want us to know that there are different ways we can create these healthy foods. And you have this 28-page, or I think it's a little bit longer than that, wonderful handout that they can get, or a PDF that they can get at the pcrm.org. And so that's what I want to talk about today. Is that good?
Yeah, you bet. What you said is so important, that when kids start out life, very, very rapidly, they're going to start developing certain preferences for certain foods. And they are the foods that the parents introduce them to. So if I'm a parent and I'm drinking Coca-Cola and I give some to my 4-year-old son or whatever, they're going to start to develop a taste for that. Let's say I'm a parent in Japan. I introduced my 4-year-old son to tofu. No kid in Fargo, North Dakota might have that, but a kid in Japan would. And anyway, kids learn to like the things that their parents give them to. And in a blink of an eye, that 4-year-old child is going to be a 44-year-old adult who's got either great health because their parents introduced them to really healthy tastes that they came to like, or their health can be compromised, as it is for so many people, because well-meaning parents didn't necessarily know which would be the best food choices for their kids. So anyway, the point I'm making is that food preferences are set very early in life. By the time a child is even, say, 2.5, 3 years old, They have clear, strong preferences, and they will carry them with them for a long, long time. And so the good news is that parents can really start, they can work with their children to develop the very best food habits. And if we've gone off on a little bit on the wrong path, and we got to talk about this today too, because we all get off on the wrong path a little bit. And there are a lot of families where their kids are already well on their way when we discover we need to help them to eat in a different way. So we could talk about how to, if we're on the wrong path, how to get back in a better direction.
Very good. Very good. You know, just yesterday in the news, they announced that for people who are eating chicken because they think it's a better path for us, they had some important news to tell us. And I don't watch the news very often, but my husband called me over because I'm not eating, and he was eating his own meal, watching the news. And he goes, "Honey, you need to come over and listen to this." And so I went there and they said, "Oh, we've got some exciting news for you, that the chicken is not better than meat."
Right.
And so I'm thinking, this is how we're being programmed, Dr. Barnard. We are being programmed by media for people that don't even know what you know or what we've learned in the classroom. So with that in mind, let's talk about, how biased we are, the teachers on television are, because they want to sell us pharmaceuticals, keep us sick, and they want to sell their product. And they're not being honest about the value of the vegetables as opposed to chicken versus beef.
Right. Well, I know the study that you're talking about. I saw it on the news as well. So we looked up the original data, and it was a fascinating study. What they did is they had some participants trying all these different diets. And one was a diet with red meat, one was a diet with white meat, meaning chicken. And then they also tried plant-based foods without the meat or without red meat or chicken. And what they showed is that red meat and chicken had about the same effect on cholesterol levels.
Yeah.
The chicken, people think of it as better, it wasn't any better. But when people chose a non-meat protein source, I'm talking about legumes, beans, and things like that, their cholesterols definitely did drop. So anyway, the good news was that there are food choices that can be made that are really healthy. So let's say we have an opportunity to introduce our children to healthier foods. Mm-hmm. We all kind of grew up with this idea that, well, red meat's kind of an indulgence, but white meat, take the skin off the chicken, you're going to do better. And what we've learned is that, wait a minute, that you can take a much more important step, and that is to think about 4 different food groups. And these are, I think, essential for every parent to think about when they're planning their kids' meals: vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans. Now, kids tend to have simple tastes, so they might not want blanched asparagus or something like that. But they like green beans, and they like simple things. They might be a little bit afraid of cooked spinach, but they'll eat fresh spinach in a salad. So fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans. And in the bean group, I'm going to include lentils and peas, all of the legumes there. And if those 4 food groups are integral to what children are eating, and we're drawing their nutrition from those 4 food groups, you're getting plenty of protein, you're getting calcium from all the green vegetables they're getting. I would add a vitamin. For vitamin B12, it can be like a Flintstones vitamin or something like that. That's perfectly fine. But what you want in there is the vitamin B12. You can go to the store and just get B12 if you want. But you do those 2 things, those healthy 4 food groups, and make sure you're supplementing B12, because the B12 is not in many plant foods. It's in some fortified products like fortified soy milk and whatever, but you might not be eating those things. Put those things together. This prescription sounds easy.
Yes, it is.
The child who eats that way. So it's baked beans or a veggie chili or spaghetti with tomato sauce or whatever with some vegetables and fruit for dessert. With those choices, your child is much more likely to be in a healthy weight. Those healthy food habits will, as an adult, help their cholesterol to stay in a healthy range. Their blood pressure is much more likely to be in a healthy range. They're much less likely to develop diabetes. And all of that is because they started learning about these healthy foods very, very early in life. And as I said, it's never too late. If kids have gone off on the wrong path and it's all chicken nuggets and pizza, it is possible to get into a healthier path as well.
Yes, yes, because we can make all those foods that we love, those comfort foods, and we can make them an alternative, a healthier alternative
Right.
way.
Yep.
And you mentioned that in your PDF, that if for those of you who want to go to pcrm.org, you can download that for yourself as well. Let me tell you, it was very hard to prep last night, Dr. Barnard, because all the pictures of the beautiful fruits and the
When you're
foods and
fasting.
the burritos and all that, I'm having a hard time here. I think I'm just going to cry myself and just suck on my tears.
Oh my.
But I'm doing well. I'm doing very well. I'm making fun of it because I'm not even hungry. But at the same time, when I see food, it's a trigger. It's a trigger for me.
Well, you are not alone. That's true for everybody. You know, and there are some families where food is used in a kind of an unhealthy way.
Yes.
It's used as a constant reward, or sometimes food is used as an expression of what passes for love. I want to show my kids how much I care for them, so I'm going to stuff them with food. And you know, it's much better to stuff your children with love if you can. I don't want to sound overly spiritual about it, but what kids need is affection and caring and safety. And they don't need to be fed calories nonstop. They do need to have healthy foods available, but if we're starting to use food as our expression of our emotions, it can go too far. And we can end up with weight problems and other kind of health problems. And unfortunately, here's where it becomes toxic. When kids start to gain weight, I'm talking about a kid who they might be 10 or 12 or 14 years of age. They start to notice they're feeling a little bit pudgy. Mm-hmm. What many kids unfortunately then do is they, in very awkward ways, try to lose weight. So they just starve themselves. And I'm not talking about a controlled fast like you're doing. I'm talking about a kid who's trying to just starve the weight off. Or they might start vomiting. They're getting into purging. Of which we're really talking about having a serious eating disorder. But the eating disorder started with the child feeling that they were unhealthy and that they had an unhealthy weight. And the solution to it is not to focus on the quantity of food and say to your child, you're pudgy, you need to eat less. That's not the answer. The answer is to eat in a better way. So if we're making not a quantitative change, but a qualitative change, then the child can be satisfied, they can be full, they're going to feel good, but that extra weight is going to come off, and you're going to save that child from getting into eating disorders and so forth. Mm-hmm. So again, those healthy food groups, vegetables, whichever vegetables the kid likes. You can experiment a little bit. This is not, but the idea is to keep it simple with the foods that kids like: vegetables, fruits, whole grains, beans, and whatever variety they are. And those are the healthy foods.
Yes. Absolutely. So what comes to mind is, yes, we want to have our children eat well, but what comes first? The parent relearning and rewriting the program, or is it that the school system needs to change? And now the children are teaching the parents, oh, I don't want that because this is bad for you. So what's going to cause for a parent to say, okay, I don't want to hand this down to my kids. I really want them to learn a new way, and I'm going to adopt this change because milk is what I've heard and what we've learned on the show, Classroom, is that milk is the number one cause of childhood diabetes. So what can you say about that?
There's a lot of evidence in that direction, and it goes back quite a long time. It was, I believe, 1992, if I'm remembering correctly. The New England Journal of Medicine published a really important research study where they looked at children newly diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And in blood tests, they found that they had antibodies that had destroyed the beta cells in the pancreas that make insulin. Now, we have known for a long time that type 1 diabetes is caused by antibodies that are destroying the insulin-producing cells. What they published in the New England Journal was that those antibodies appeared to have been formed by exposure to a foreign protein. A protein had entered their bodies, triggered the production of these antibodies that destroyed their ability to make insulin. And what was that foreign protein that triggered all of this? It was a cow's milk protein. So there has been evidence on all sides of this, and I don't think that the research is anywhere near completed. But we know for a fact that when children are not exposed to dairy products at all, and I'm talking about a child who even from birth, they're not given a dairy formula, they are breastfed by their mom. Instead, if kids are breastfed by their mom and never exposed to milk, they have a much lower likelihood of ever developing type 1 diabetes, even if they might have genes that could allow it to occur. So I, for one, believe that it's really important for children to breastfed from their mother, if it is at all possible, and in nearly every case it is, and to avoid cow's milk products, animal milk products entirely. Now that sounds funny for people who've grown up thinking, well, milk is normal. Milk is your source of calcium or whatever.
Milk does the body good.
That's partly culture and it's partly advertising.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
It's not biology.
Correct.
Mother Nature never thought, I'll put milk in the udder of a cow for a human being to drink. It's entirely a cultural wrong turn.
Yes. Okay. So in your PDF that people can get on your website, you talk about identifying 3 dishes or more that your family loves and creating some difference. What are other different things that we can do to create that new shift? Okay,
here's what I want to do. Let's say you've got children who are already growing up. You might have a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and suddenly you thought, oh my God, I have not been feeding everybody as healthfully as I should. Let's change that. What I want to develop is maybe 10 or 12 dishes that everybody's going to love, everyone's going to eat. So how do I do that? Break it into 3 steps. Step 1, think about foods that you're already eating, maybe 3 or 4 foods that already are made from vegetables, fruits, whole grains, and beans. I'm talking about vegan foods, but that you like them already. Okay, baked beans, bean burrito. I can have spaghetti with tomato sauce. Okay, that's fine. Vegetable stir fry, vegetable soup. Okay, fine. So you've got now 3 or 4 foods that everybody likes already. Fine, great. Step 2. Now I want to think of another 3 or 4 that I can adapt. I like a burger. Would a veggie burger work? I don't know. Go to the store, pick some up, try some, or you can make your own. There are lots of recipes for making your own veggie burgers from chickpeas or from lentils and rice, and they're fine, they're good. I never had a veggie hot dog or a pizza. Could I have a pizza without cheese? You bet you could. You put on sauce, tomato sauce, and the mushrooms and onions and green peppers, and we often use nutritional yeast because it has. Go to the store. Health food stores have it, and many of the regular grocery stores have what's called nutritional yeast. Tastes just like cheese, but it has no dairy fat. It has basically no fat at all, no cholesterol. By the way, it's not brewer's yeast and it's not baker's yeast. It's nutritional yeast. It's bright yellow, and you put it on your pizza. I could have sloppy joes, or there are veggie cold cuts that it looks like bologna, but it's vegan. And they are a little bit processed and so forth, but they're better than the one that you're replacing. So step 2, find things that you can modify. That's your veggie burger instead of the meat burger. Step 3, I've already got now 6 or 8 foods. I now encourage people to experiment a little bit. You might pick up a recipe book or go to the store and just see what they've got. If they have some new frozen foods you'd like to try, or you see a recipe for something, maybe your child has never tasted hummus. Now is the time, get out the food processor and throw in the chickpeas and zip it up and see if they like it. If they don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to serve it anymore, but try some new foods. Try my vegan lasagna or something like that, and just see which new foods that you can make. So step 1, there are foods you already like that are healthy, vegan, plant-based foods. Step 2, find out things you can modify. Step 3, try a few new things. Experiment a little bit. And don't worry if your experiment once in a while turns out to be a dud. If every experiment works out great, that's super, but you're going to have some things that aren't perfect. You'll also have some that are amazingly great and that you can share with everybody. Yes,
yes. And so all these things, you can find some recipes in Nutrition for Kids, which is the PDF that we're talking about. That's absolutely, I was looking at the recipes and I texted my daughter and I said, did you check out this PDF? And And she said, not yet, but I said, you need to look at it because some great recipes for children. Unfortunately, we get stuck in our patterns and we don't think about 20 years down the road. We just think about the now and immediate gratification, and it's easy. We put it in the microwave or whatever, but the consequences of that, how long could they last in our body?
Yes, and also, I don't want to give the impression that the disease processes take that long to manifest. They start manifesting right away. As a matter of fact, there was an Australian study that came out a couple of years ago that was frightening. Here's what they did. They looked at women who were in the process of childbirth. And when the babies were born, they looked at the baby's aortas, which you can do through ultrasound, so it's totally non-invasive. And what they found is that women who had unhealthy diets and had gained extra weight during pregnancy, their children had thickened arteries already at birth.
Wow.
So we're thinking about arterial damage when I'm 50 or 60. This was kids born with artery disease because of their mother's diets. So it starts from day zero. That's the bad news. The good news is these things are reversible. They are not reversible by switching from beef to chicken, as you mentioned, but they are reversible when we have truly healing foods. And so that means, as you know, I'm always promoting getting the animal products out of your diet, having your diet be based on healthy plant foods. That allows the body to heal. So if a child has been born after having pretty unhealthy nutritional environment during pregnancy, their path does not have to continue in that negative way.
That's a great point. Thank you so much for bringing that up. So, earlier in the classroom, you mentioned that, about sodas, and you talked about that, but many of the kids are sucking down organic juicy juices that have more sugar in there that's processed. Although it's organic sugar or organic whatever, it's still not as healthy for them. And the parent might think, well, at least it's not soda. But let's talk about some of these alternative ways that we can give our child juice without just giving them a bunch of sugar.
Yeah. Okay. And first of all, for all those parents who are saying juice is not soda, they're right. There's something to be said for that, because if let's say a child has a cola drink or Dr. Pepper or something like that, that has a 20-ounce cola has about 250 calories in it, and it has about as much caffeine as a small cup of coffee. So getting away from that is good. And so if a parent goes from that to juice, that's a step in the right direction. However, you look at your bottle of juice, and what they've often done is taken out all the pulp and what really was making the fruit a fruit. And now it's just concentrated sugar, sometimes with sugar added to it. And so it's becoming progressively less healthy. Yeah. So if we make another switch, and that's to the orange itself or the apple itself. And you know who loves fruit more than anybody else is children. They really, a parent might say, their parents have already been seduced by chocolate and everything else, but kids love little apple slices and orange slices, and they love those nice, simple tastes. And to make sure that they're there is great. By the way, one tip, let's say you bought a melon or a cantaloupe, and it's sitting on your counter. Your child is never in a million years going to eat that, because you have to have a knife and you got to cut it up, and it's going to go bad just sitting on your counter, and you end up throwing it away. Don't do that. Instead, as soon as you get home from the store, open up your cantaloupe and cut it into little bite-sized pieces and put it in the refrigerator. And so if the family is looking for a healthy snack, it's already ready. And people will then devour it instead of looking for what sodas do you have in the refrigerator door or whatever. So make sure. What I'm trying to say is that if we are surrounded by healthy foods, and if that's all that's in the house, then that's what we're going to choose. So it's good to make sure that your shelves are adequately stocked with these 4 healthy food groups. Have the fruits on hand. And here in my office, I always have extra bananas and peaches and all kinds of things, because my staffers come in and we share these things. And your house should be the same way too. Or have a little bit of extra things on hand so that your kids, if they want to have a healthy dessert, it doesn't have to be cake. It can be a mixture of some papaya or mangoes or blueberries and some bananas, mix them all together, put a few nuts on top. It's just really delicious foods that kids absolutely adore. Make sure that you're kitted out with plenty of healthful foods.
Very good, very good. And so with that in mind, we're looking at, as healthier choices. But as I understand it, and I really believe it, that if it's not in the home, we're not going to give it to our children or eat it ourselves. So somewhat nutrition begins at the grocery store. That choice of healthy eating, not nutrition, but that choice of healthy eating begins in the grocery store. Any tips for parents, because they want to grab the boxes and because it's easy, especially working moms, working dads. Sometimes we want to gravitate towards foods that are maybe organic, or maybe they look good, but they're maybe full of sodium, or they're full of fats that the body doesn't really need.
Right. It's good to take a little time and explore what is in the store. And I always like to start out in the produce section. There are so many things, even at relatively small stores, they very often have a lot of produce that has not been entirely explored by your average family. So go in and see what you find. And if something's a dud, maybe you didn't like a mango or something like that, fair enough. But try things that you might not have tried before. And for me, I grew up in the Midwest. And there's so many fruits that I had never, ever had the opportunity to try. And it's really neat to bring them in. Try different vegetables. Try different kinds of green leafy vegetables. If you just never had kale or collards, or if you've never had Swiss chard, try these things. Steam them up. Once in a while, I will use a little flavoring trick. If your child doesn't like kale or spinach, because it's a little, their young taste buds find these foods a little bit bitter. There's a product that I often like called Bragg's amino acids. And yeah. it's right next to the soy sauce. It's got some sodium in it and so forth, but it flavors up. You steam up some kale and spray on the Bragg's, or some broccoli or collards or spinach or Swiss chard or something like that. It softens that bitterness and makes them really like candy. You can do the same thing with seasoned rice vinegar, or just ordinary rice vinegar or balsamic vinegar, something like that. Very simple, just a little amount, or even just a squirt of lemon juice. Somehow, I don't know why it is, but the bitterness of a green leafy vegetable combined with the sourness of lemon juice, you put those together and it sort of makes a sweetness that your child will then want to eat. And with some of these things, the child can also be involved in the preparation. Mm-hmm. They're not going to do elaborate cooking, but they can tear up the lettuce and make a salad or something like that. And once they're, 11, 12, something like that, you can teach them some basic knife skills, how to cut up a tomato or an onion, and they'll be able to carry those skills with them really throughout life.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Great tips. Once Dr. Michael Clapper had mentioned, we were talking about the good, bad, and the ugly of sugar, salt, and fat. I think that was oils. I think that was the show. And he had given us a tip a while ago, and he said that when you look at a bag of, let's say you do want to buy something that's processed, that you look at the sodium content should not exceed the amount of calories. So, right. So can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's sensible. Because in a day, and let's start with adults. In a day, a typical adult might eat close to 2,000 calories. And if their sodium content doesn't exceed about 2,000 milligrams of sodium, they're going to be okay. Now, a lot of people are eating 5,000 and 6,000 and 7,000 milligrams of sodium, and their blood pressure is going up as a result. So your calories and your sodium should be roughly about the same. So but one meal might be maybe 400 calories or something like that. So your sodium should be limited to about the same extent.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So we're talking about kids surviving, and thriving in the home, because we are now changing the way we're looking at food, and we're feeding them healthier options. We're maybe starting up younger, but as they get older, they're seeing other kids eat certain things and they're not eating it. Right. And so how do we protect our children, and how do we give them the, I don't know, the word that I'm looking for is stamina or ability to say, no, thank you, I like my food.
Right. Well, this can happen in schools, and I think parents very rapidly learn that the school does not have your child's health in mind when it comes to the cafeteria in many cases. What they have in mind is their economic situation, which is a lot of schools have rough budgets. And so they get food at discounted prices through federal commodity programs. So suddenly you see cheese pizza and corn dogs and chicken nuggets all up and down the lunch line. And you see a lot of kids who are increasingly overweight and unhealthy as a result. And when they reach their teen years, we start to see kids who have type 2 diabetes, high cholesterol levels, high blood pressure as children. I think there are really two answers to this. The first answer is there's many times the best thing to do is to brown bag. In other words, you're going to pack a lunch for your child. If you do this, a couple of thoughts. There are some kids who are perfectly happy to bring whatever you're providing for them, but some kids want to make sure that their food looks like normal food so that other kids don't tease them. Correct. So that's where I really think the vegan cold cuts come in handy. So if the kid has a bologna sandwich, but it's vegan bologna, it still is somewhat processed, but it doesn't have any cholesterol, doesn't have any animal fat. It's a healthier choice. You could put on a little mustard or something like that and put on a healthy bread. And then sometimes I recommend that parents give enough food in the brown bag for the child to share with somebody else. And you can also throw in an apple. You can throw in a tiny little carton of soy milk. All those things are going to work out just fine. So anyway, tip one, brown bagging is a good idea. In some cases, you can brown bag with just some leftovers from yesterday. For many kids, they want whatever they had last night, just in a little plastic tub. But the second tip I have is get involved with the school. And here, I normally start with the principal because everybody works for her or for him. So you say, I'm trying to introduce my child to really healthful foods, and I need your help with this. And so you let the principal know what you're trying to do. You might even work with as many other parents as you can, and then ultimately work with the cafeteria staff and work with them to have as healthful foods as they possibly can have. Those things will tend to be very helpful. Kids sometimes are not interested in eating, and you might pack a lunch that the child never eats because they get too distracted. Once in a while, they'll go off track and they'll eat something else. I suggest that we don't make this a moral issue. If your child, you forgive your child for whatever they might do, but do pack them with healthy foods and do that every day, or work with the school food service. We have worked with a lot of school food services and found that kids will eat wonderfully healthy foods. And if you don't mind, I just want to tell you a quick story.
Sure.
Years ago, we were working with Broward County, Florida, which is the 6th largest school district in the country. Yeah. And it's huge and extremely diverse. There are something like maybe 50 different languages spoken in Broward County, and economically diverse from the richest to the poorest. And so there was a person in the county council in Broward County who said, we need to have healthy foods for our kids. What can we do? So we worked with an elementary school and a middle school and a high school. And here's what we did. We sent in a dietitian who had a veggie burger cut into little pie wedges on a plate. And she had this plate on a tray, and she walked through the lunch line. She said, does anybody want to try a veggie burger? And some brave kid said, I'll try it. And so the kid took a little chunk of the veggie burger, a little pie wedge, and put it in his mouth, and he said, that's pretty good. And so then the dietitian gave him a little sticker that said, I veg out, and he put it on his shirt. And then the other kid said, where'd you get that sticker? And he said, that lady gave it to me. Oh, really? What's she got? Well, she's got veggie burgers. Okay, I want to try it. So then, it starts with one kid, but then pretty soon all the kids are gathering around because they want a sticker and they want to try the food. So the next day, the kids go through the lunch line, and the sticker is there on the lunch line, and behind it are all these veggie burgers. It outsold everything else. The veggie burgers outsold pizza, they outsold chicken nuggets and everything. So we did it again with chili. We made a vegan chili, which costs pennies, and we gave the kids a chance to taste it the day before. They got their little sticker, and then we put it in the lunch line. It outsold everything else.
Wow.
We did it a third time with beans and rice. I mean, what is simpler than beans and rice? Would it sell big? If you give kids a chance to taste it and it's made right, it sold hugely. We did it also with soy milk. There are a lot of kids who couldn't digest cow's milk anyway because they're lactose intolerant, which is particularly true in children of color. But we said, who wants to try vanilla soy milk? Who wants to try chocolate soy milk? I want vanilla, I want chocolate. And then we put them in the lunch line. And they outsold cow's milk. Now, after a few weeks, it kind of settles out. But the point is, if you give children a chance to taste something, it's not punitive, but they can kind of wrap their heads around it, and then it's consistently available. They will try healthier choices. Now, quick caveat. There are a lot of families who make food unpleasant. They'll say, you've got to clean your plate. Yeah. And they won't let the child leave the table until the child has eaten everything. Don't do that. If your child's done eating, stop it. And if you have to throw that food away or put it in a storage container in the fridge, fine. But don't make every last morsel go down the kid's esophagus, because you're getting your child they will carry with them the resentment along with those extra calories, and you just don't need that. Don't lecture your kids about starving people in China who would be glad to have the meal that you gave them. Forget it. If you don't want to eat, just forget it. And in the same way as I mentioned earlier, you don't want to use food as always your reward. Oh, you wonderful person, have this extra thing. There are some people who are using food in really a toxic way. Don't do that. This is going to surprise people. Every parent is saying to their child, you made something special and the kid is afraid of it or doesn't want to have it. And so the parents plead, just try it, and the kids never do. I suggest you make things available. If they want to try it, they'll try it. If they don't want to try it, it doesn't matter. Because the beauty of childhood is that there are so many things to learn and explore that food just isn't that important to a lot of kids. Yeah. And that's good. Let them explore the world they live in and just use that nutrition that their body needs, and don't make it more than that. So don't force them to eat things, but make sure that everything you do provide is something you're proud of, that you know is going to be healthy. So healthy, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, beans, healthy stuff.
Great advice. Great advice. And, I had written down food fight, which you label it food fight. And so you've given us a bird's eye view of what these food fights can become.
And it's true in every family. It was true for me as a kid growing up.
It's true for me too.
And the thing about it is, if parents want their children to try new foods, that will happen. But I remember from my own childhood, I was afraid of broccoli. To me, it looked like little trees. I didn't want to eat them. Now I love broccoli. I was afraid of spinach because it seemed kind of mushy to me. Now I love spinach. But that just happened, and having my parents wag their fingers at me didn't help at all. What happened is your taste buds just mature. So when you're ready, the vegetables will come to you. And you can't repair it. I have to say, if parents get into unnecessary struggles with their children, the children are going to remember that there's a big part of their parents that doesn't love them. That's what they're going to think from this. You don't want to do that. Prepare healthy food, and your child will take care of himself or herself.
That's a great advice. Great advice. And so I want to take the time to talk about how important it is to have a partner that believes in what you're doing, whether it's, educate yourself, teach your partner. And so true with the Lillian McDermott radio show Classroom, we rely on partnerships to continue the show to grow in the classroom, to grow more enrolled students. So there's a couple of things I want to share with you. Check out my sponsors like Liberty Health Share, Keep Me Safe Organics, First Alternative Care, Dr. Stephen Grable in Jacksonville Beach. We also have the pharmacy in Merritt Island. So there's just so many different things that when you go to whenyouneedafriend.com, you can play and learn new truths like what Dr. Neal Barnard is sharing today. This is a shift, but mostly I was asked today by someone who was trying to help me promote my show. What's your show about? My show is about taking ownership. Stop being a victim of your circumstance. So if somebody did you wrong or if something happened to you, you can carry that anger and bitterness and frustration, but it's only going to eat you up. Speaking about, using food as comfort or using food to fill a void. And so what I want to encourage you all to, not only you're getting this information, and I'm hoping that you will partner with the show as well. We have a new section at whenyouneedafriend.com that's called Enrolled Student, where you can contribute to this classroom, where we're getting people like Dr. Neal Barnard and if you go check out the library, if you want to be a part of the classroom, $10 all the way to wherever you want to a month would help. Every bit helps, so that I can send books and I can do all the different things that is required. So I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, subscribe, but while you're there, also check out my sponsors and figure out ways that you can support them the way they're supporting the show. Also, you can, give us the thumbs up and share this information, because there's so many kids, so many people out there that think that they're providing the best nutrition for children. And I want to encourage you to go to Dr. Barnard's website. It's physicians, my brain just flew out of the thought.
PCRM.org.
Yeah, PCRM.org, and download the Nutrition for Kids, because you will get ideas, and now you'll have a partnership where it can empower you to make the best choice for your children. And it's really tough for me, Dr. Barnard. I've seen little babies, one 15 months old, at parties that I've attended, that the mother broke open a bag of Cheetos, the kid's full of orange, and she eventually says, okay, that's enough. And the baby goes into like a crack-induced, like they're like addict. Yeah, it's like it's formed to be addictive. And let me tell you, I haven't eaten anything for almost 2 days now, and I'm not hungry. And I love what you're saying about, well, let me clarify that. I'm not hungry until you start talking about delicious food. I know. I knew this was going to be kind of difficult, but
I'll only talk about boring foods from now on.
Oh, no boring foods. Eating healthy is never boring. Yeah. And what we need to do is change the way we're viewing what boring is. We're used to playing games with bells and whistles and all the things that give us instant gratification.
We do. But there are ways out of all this stuff.
Okay, let's talk about that.
I want to come back to something that you were mentioning earlier. You're talking about partnerships. And there are a lot of couples where the couples don't exactly agree on things. This can happen all the time. Here's a typical case. Let's say you've got a couple that's married. They've been married for 10 years. They've got kids now. And maybe she sees a movie or a film or reads a book that talks about foods that she can eat to improve her cholesterol, and she does that, but her husband says, oh, gee, I don't know if I really want to go in that direction. Or it can be the opposite. The husband might make a change, and the wife is kind of staying behind. And then they have the question of, well, what do we do with our kids? Let's say one partner is now vegan, and the other loves meat. What do you do with the kids? What you've got to do is sort out what you're going to do as parents. You cannot have a household with two sets of rules. So get the parents together, and they have to sort out what they're going to do. And what I always encourage is that the parent who is now on a healthier diet, they've got the burden or the responsibility to try to bring their spouse with them. Some people are going to be reluctant because your spouse has all the unhealthy eating habits that they grew up with, so they're a little bit reluctant to change. My solution to that is go beyond you. Find a movie or a book by somebody else that you can introduce them to, so they don't feel like they're just acceding to your will. So get a copy of the film What the Health, or Folks Over Knives, or something like that. Watch it together.
You Alive, well, you're on that one.
There you go. At the end of the film, people are going to really, they're going to think, okay, this is great. And then at that point, you've got to decide what you're going to do with your kids. Let's say you're going to raise your kids as vegans. You then have to be a parent. Some parents will say, well, I want my 5-year-old to just choose for herself. Keep in mind, if it's smoking, your 6, 7, 8-year-old comes home with a pack of cigarettes. You know what a parent does. You say, this is dangerous. We're not going to do this. And in this house, you cannot smoke, and here's why. And you have a firm rule about that. Your kid comes home and says, can I do a line of crack? No, you can't do these things. Once your kids are older teens, they're out of your control, and it's hard, it's hard to know what they're going to do. But when they're in your house, you can have rules, and you ought to have rules about foods too. So if you're having a vegan household, as many people do nowadays, you say, this is what we're going to do. And so you just set those rules, and you're the parent, and you communicate it with love and with knowledge. So it's not just a punitive rule, but you set these rules, and you're going to work well. Now, many kids say, well, my friends go to fast food. What do I want to do? There are typically choices that are not so terrible at fast food restaurants. I'll give you an example. You go to Subway, and they have all kinds of unhealthy stuff, meats and cheeses, but they will also make a vegan sub that's loaded with lettuce and tomatoes and cucumbers and spinach, and they'll drown it with a little red wine vinegar, and they'll toast it. It's tasty. Or you're at Taco Bell, skip the meat taco, have the bean burrito, hold the cheese. It's not the pinnacle of culinary art, but it works. So we're going to find things that you can eat so that your kids can be part of the world they live in, but they can have healthier choices as well. When it comes to snacks, there's nothing like having lots of fruit at home, and having, say, hummus and pita, chips and things like that are healthy foods that you stock, and they're going to be fine. So I guess the point being, be parents, and being a parent doesn't just mean setting rules. It also means setting a tone of love and respect and gratitude, so that your kids don't feel forced into something unhealthy. They feel led and inspired into something healthy.
Yes, and for those of you who need some extra help, Dr. Neal Barnard also has tons of books that will help you. We gave away the Vegan Starter Kit, and so many people were just excited about that. Sometimes we just don't know where to begin. And I love what you're saying, Dr. Barnard, and how important it is for parents to be parents. And, a family divided, a household divided is very confusing to children.
Right.
And that creates all sorts of issues growing up as well. So I love what you're doing. Now, real quick, for people that are saying, well, it's really difficult to eat, organic, or, because we're trying to do this optimal, whatever is best for our children. And you go into detail in your PDF for children's nutrition, or nutritions for kids, that talks about frozen versus canned versus fresh. Can you set us up for, what's acceptable and how it's okay to eat frozen or canned sometimes?
Absolutely. And just to be real clear, let's say a parent makes no choice other than just getting the animal products off their plate. That's great. That's wonderful. And then from there on in, you can do more choices. But let's say you travel a lot, or you're a very busy family. There's nothing wrong with frozen vegetables. You'd like to have fresh, but sometimes if you have fresh food that sits out for a while, it starts to lose its nutrient content too. If something is frozen at the time it's harvested, it can be as nutritious as fresh. Canned is often a little less healthful, and it sometimes has sodium in it, but it beats the socks off of Spam and Velveeta. So if you have these things around, you're going to be miles ahead.
Very good. Very good. Dr. Barnard, it's so important that we focus on not taking away things from our kids, but setting them up for great health in the future. So our mindset needs to change, and I'm so glad that you are always an advocate of doing the right things when it comes to nutrition. So thank you so much, Dr. Barnard, for being on the Lillian McDermott Radio Show /Classroom today. Anything that you'd like to say real quick to wrap it up?
Taking good care of our kids is wonderful. And in turn, they're going to take care of us one day too. So we want to be healthy together.
Very good. I truly believe that that's words of wisdom that we can take with us. And, and after listening to you talk about all these wonderful foods, I think I am going to lock myself in my bedroom, maybe take a little nap, or maybe just continue to work. But, it's amazing how we can absolutely control what we put in our mouth, even to the point where we learn what's the foods that are going to be healthy for us and that are not healthy for us. And then we make informed choice, not for ourselves, but for our children as well. So I am just so grateful to all of you who have tuned in. And I want to, thank all of you after we hear the theme song, we'll address any questions that you have on Facebook Live at Lillian's Radio Show. And thank you. And if you're watching this later on YouTube or listening on podcast, you can always join us on a live broadcast at facebook.com/Lillian's radio show. Thank you so much, Dr. Barnard, for this. And
Thank
just
you,
know it's very simple to make a choice that will lead you to health. Please remember, I'll be right here waiting for you. This is Lillian McDermott and Dr. Neal Barnard wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever. Yay! Good job.
The opinions and advice expressed on the Lillian McDermott radio show are intended for the individual callers and guests on the program and are presented to our wider audience solely for general educational purposes. Please act responsibly and consult personally with your own medical, psychological, or nutritional expert before taking any steps to improve your life.
So I just want to say thank you to Tanya and Robert and Asia. Thank you so much. My sister Asia joined us today, and Kimberly Kirshner, who is certified in your courses, and she's a big fan of yours, so she tuned in as well. Thank you so much, Kimberly and Misty and Victoria. Victoria is doing the fast with us, and she's doing fabulous because we're taking this mind, spirit, and body approach to this. Any questions that you might have, really quick, for Dr. Barnard, you're welcome to ask real quick. But Dr. Barnard, can you give us some words of wisdom for those of us who are choosing to fast?
One thing, fasting can really be an amazing reset for the body. It's as you said earlier, most people never have that opportunity at all. But also, it's important to remember that fasting can be kind of risky if you're doing it in an completely uncontrolled way. So I really love what you were saying, that you're doing it in a supervised way, where you're doing it with some good guidance. And if people do really extended fasts, I'm talking about like a month or whatever, those are things where I encourage people to actually go to a facility where you can fast with having people check you all the time. If it's a couple of days, you're going to be fine kind of no matter how you do it. But it's good to do it in a sensible way and get checked as you go along.
Yeah, it's mind-blowing that I've gone 2 days without eating,
Right.
and I don't feel hungry. And now I get it when you say, don't fight with your kids. If they don't eat their meal, don't make them eat their meal until they're, angry with us or just gag on the food. It's amazing. And so Kimberly says that I'm currently teaching several Food for Life classes at the Boys and Girls Club in Osceola County for the kids, and that's great. You see, that's where it begins, Dr. Barnard.
Yes, I salute you. That is so wonderful that you're doing that.
Yes, and it's wonderful, and thank you, Dr. Barnard. I know that you've got your full day ahead of you too, but I want to thank you for being on the teacher on the classroom today, and I am grateful for you. And thank you for the words of wisdom when it comes to food.
Right back at you, Lillian. Thanks for all you do.
And we're going to say goodbye to all of you. And thank you for joining us. I think that I'm going to make the show a little shorter today just to keep my strength up. And so thank you so much for watching and joining us today. And I look forward to our next conversation. See ya.
Very good. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you, Dr. Barnard.
Thanks a million.
You're the best.